What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. So, one that we definitely wanted to go over because it is literally the first album in, I believe, 25 years from this band. Was the newest offering from Razor, Cycle of Contempt. This comes out on the 23rd of September on Relapse Records. This band formed in 1983 in Ontario, Canada. This is their 9th full length. Again, their first in 25 years. Their last one was 1997's Decibels. And they kind of just broke up like almost immediately after. And for those that don't know, these guys are kind of Canadian underground thrash legends, like kind of from that same, wave of bands like Annihilator, Voivod, I would say like Sacrifice in there too. They were kind of like a mainstay. They were almost Canada's Slayer. Like they just played everything at ridiculous speeds. It was full of energy. It was full of fuck off, fuck you, fuck your mom lyrics.
And it still is.
And now they're back with something new. And honestly, I didn't really expect this. Like, I saw a track pop up a while ago and it's like, is this like a compilation, like a B-sides thing or something? It's like, oh no, this is something new. And, well, I mean, all right, it 100% sounds like Razor. Unmistakably, it's their token sound of just blazing fast aggression. Like literally this thing stays high octane for 99.9% of the album.
Yeah, there's one song, it's not till the 6th song where the beat changes a little bit, so.
Yeah, it just kind of flies by at a nice, rigorous, fast, thrashy pace. You have very gruff, kind of raspy vocals that are belting forth, well, contempt, because, I mean, that's what the album's about, I think.
Yes.
And, I mean, all right, they're kind of like wearing their age in their sleeve, too, and some of this, like, there's like kind of like angry old man, like, this is get the fuck off my lawn, but I'm not going to chase you because my back and my knees hurt.
Right. I just mowed. Get off the lawn.
You're the one that's been stealing my mail. Like, we didn't touch your mailbox. Fuck off.
Yeah. I'm surprised that's not a lyric in here.
I mean, the lyrical themes, again, they haven't changed much. They kind of just grown older because this band was always about just aggression. Go back to albums like Shotgun Justice and Violent Restitution. Those are just pissed off, forward-driven albums driven by just chunky guitar riffs, which the guitar work on here is definitely still 100% Razor. They play fast, aggressive riffing, but they're very catchy and, like, surprisingly for as meat and potatoes as they are, they're pretty intricate.
Yeah, I think meat and potatoes is a good word, but they're riff-centric. It's like meat and potatoes, but with, like, a little bit of gravy and butter and
Staples.
Yeah, they're in broken glass.
Nails.
Think like Municipal Waste, but think just different lyrical content. Like pissed off at other things, such as Get Off My Lawn. Or songs like A Bitter Pill, where they're really kind of depressing and sad vocals about getting older.
But delivered hostily, at least.
Yes. But like, at one time he says, you realize you're older and now you're alone.
Well, all right, way to point that out.
I get it. Thanks a lot.
And, just about, your knees hurting and you're becoming more decrepit. It's like, man, I already know this. I own a mirror. I look at it, not fondly. But still, I mean, again, it's delivered with their token aggression. And it's like, well, yeah, all right, that's fine. Like, there's plenty of songs in here that just kind of are just about violence. Just like sort of violence in general. I mean, like, punch your face in.
That's one of my favorites. because of the way they deliver punch your face in, like it's shouted at you, and then there's gang vocals where they go even further, punch your face. And I'm like, yeah.
And all fist fighting too, which is, I mean, I guess about a barroom brawl. The way the vocals are delivered, it's almost like, kind of like the ballroom blitz sort of style,
kind of.
Like cadence, up until you get to the chorus, which is just chanting the song title, which is kind of a thing on here. Like, most of the choruses are, well, they're going to tell you the name of the song.
Yeah.
But they'll deliver it in a fun way. But there's like some subtle things there I like. Like there's kind of like a punky energy to it. And there is a like boxing bell, like pretty much announcing the beginning of the fight like a couple of seconds after the riff hits. you know, that's just sort of like fun, ridiculous shit.
Like, it
that,
reminds me about
yeah.
like talking about, you know, an early Nintendo game fighting, like Double Dragon or something. Just punch.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Mike Tyson's Punch
Yeah.
Out, yep. You ever heard of the band We Are Wasted? I reviewed them really early on in the Thralls' career. Their lyrics are kind of like this: bar fights and getting drunk together. I think the vocals are one of the more entertaining things about this album, to be honest.
He has this very interesting raspy delivery. He kind of sounds like a pissed off old man, but like a pissed off old punker or, you know, thrash dude, which, I mean, honestly, that's probably what he is. But I don't know, I just like the intent behind it. Like, he's just kind of just yelling at you.
He sounds more like one of the elder guys that still goes to the gym and is still a little muscular and still has that kind of like fuck off attitude. You know, gets like shitty drunk on like Natty Light at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Now, for the most part, again, this album, very fast. It kind of locks on to one particular beat, and generally the riffs are kind of a little bit more creative in there. But they do slow it down, and like, you know, groove is kind of limited in Razor in general. Like, if you go back and listen to their stuff, they just like to play fast. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
But this one, like the pacing and how static the drums sound, which is kind of a separate issue.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. But, you know, when they finally do slow down, like namely on Fast Rate Hate and Cycle of Contempt, the title track, you get to hear some like more intricate melodies come out. And without those blazing fast drums, the guitars kind of come out a little bit more. With the slower rhythms and it not being such a fast, like static beat, you can actually the guitars a little bit more, which is kind of a separate issue, and we're going to go over that later too. But the riff work on these songs and the fact that they're a little bit more groove-laden kind of make them stand out a bit.
And the riffs, I should state overall, great riffs. There's a ton of great riffs in here. And in songs like First Rate Hate and Cycle of Contempt, where they switch up the drum beat a little more, it allows them to play more with the riffs instead of... Because, I mean, how many riffs can you write over a pretty intensely fast D beat? I mean, you're really, really kind of limited. You can riff a lot, but since it's all at that speed, you're kind of left with the same, like, beat pattern for a riff. Whereas when they get into these songs, at least they get to play around with it a little bit more. So...
Yeah, and that's even true for the vocals, too, because a lot of the vocals kind of follow, like, you know, a very fast beat as well. And it's kind of hard to get, like, you know, different cadences when each song kind of follows the same rhythm. These are going to break it up so you can accent certain spots that sound just a little bit different. And they both do eventually get fast. Like, that's the thing, you're kind of just like, they're eventually going to break into the fast.
Dude, the speed in the end of Cycle of Contempt is blazing. Like, that's fucking fast. And the double kick that he's doing is all, like, it's just fast.
Yeah, and the picking, the guitar work, just in terms of, like, the triplet chugs and the wild combinations of riffs and, like, interesting little bits of palm muting. I don't know, like, I think the guitar work in here is really
It's
fun.
very Scott Ian.
Yeah.
Like, especially on Mr. Bungle, Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny. Just that crazy, crazy fucking picking. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, some of the stuff on, like, Darkness Falls, there's, like, a little bit of, like, Among the Living energy in there. So there's definitely some, like, Anthrax on there, too. Now, we definitely have some issues with this, though.
Yes.
And it sucks because this was a real good time to listen to, but...
Yep, I had fun.
Yeah.
In fact, just one last thing I gotta say. Listen to the last track, King Shit. I'm not even gonna ruin it for you. Just listen to the last track. That's one of my favorite fucking songs. It's a good time. It's a super good time. Listen to it.
I'm gonna spoil one thing. It sounds like you recorded those vocals in like a porta potty or something. Like it might be, and that would totally fit with the theme.
It very well could be.
But anyway, one of the main issues is the guitars are very muffled, and this is kind of like a production issue in general because there's other production issues too. But this was kind of the main one. Razor has always had big, loud, stupid, heavy guitars. And to hear them so muffled and in the background to the point where the drums and the vocals can kind of drown them out at spots. I mean, it's not right.
I'm just gonna say one thing: Metal Zone pedals. You remember Metal Zone pedals? That every metal band in the world, if they wanted that kind of like thick guitar tone, they'd use Metal Zone. But the problem with that is Metal Zone came with a high-end knob on it, and if you turn that knob all the way up, it sounds like this guitar tone. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. It's really thin.
Yep.
And not only is it really thin, but the volume on it is considerably lower than everything else.
And I think it's single tracked. Now, this band has one guitarist, and the lead tone does cut through, but it doesn't have to cut through much. And, even like the drums and the vocals, again, the lead tone can cut through that, but generally, if all those things are going, you completely lose the rhythm guitars like that.
Yeah.
They're just kind of washed out in the background.
Which is a bummer because there are super cool riffs. I know for a fact there are super cool riffs, but you can't hear them. And I think if that level was just brought up on those a little bit and they tweaked a little bit with the settings, it would be actually a pretty crushing album.
Yeah. And that was like one of the main things, like right away, is like, I know this is Razor, but it doesn't feel like a Razor album. I've been listening to these guys for a number of years now, and again, one of the main things about Razor is they don't give a fuck about your eardrums when it comes down to guitars. Like, they want them nice and loud.
Yep.
And to hear them this then, I was like, man. But the other thing that I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not either.
But it sounds like this is a drum machine, and I don't know, like, that is kind of a reason why this feels like so static when it comes down to the faster songs, which is like 90% of this.
Yes.
There's something about the way the cymbals hit.
Yep.
That it sounds mechanical. Like, it doesn't sound like it's a person doing it, because there's none of those like small inconsistencies you can hear.
And that kick drum is definitely triggered because, again, it lacks those inconsistencies. Now, it's not a clicky kick drum. It's more of a thud, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But it is incredibly precise. So either that guy is just really good and really solid, which is altogether possible.
Or Cyborg.
Or Cyborg, because there are no inconsistencies. Like, there's not a variation into how loud he's hitting or how hard he's hitting the cymbals. And every snare drum is precise, and every kick drum beat, and it just, I'm not 100%. There's a live drummer, or, credited on the record.
Yeah.
So, okay. But it really does sound programmed, like almost like Ministry level program.
Honestly, I thought of Ministry when I was hearing this, like their thrashier era, like, like Rio Grande Blood, Last Sucker, House of the Mole, stuff like that. But, all right, you go into those albums knowing full well that those are programmed drums. Right. And Razor has used programmed drums before in Open Hostility, and it was a very obvious one, but that mix, they at least had the guitars up, and it was kind of less obvious just because you had these guitars out in the forefront. This one, they're very exposed, and I don't know, like, again, it might be a real drummer, but that's what kind of makes us feel so static, because, again, it feels mechanical and rigid. It doesn't feel loose. Like, you go back to their older albums where they're playing pretty much the same thing, like super fast thrash metal, but the fact that there are these like little inconsistencies you can hear, like they're not hitting the snare the same way every time.
Exactly. He rim shotted once or something, so.
That gives you like that good raw human element, and that's kind of missing on this. And honestly, there's not a lot of variety on here. It is very much kind of, again, like meat and potatoes. They stick to that same possibly programmed beat. And, riff work kind of saves it from being like a little bit more creative, but like a lot of the vocal cadences are kind of similar. I couldn't tell you what the bass sounded like because it's kind of buried in there too.
I could hear it, but it wasn't prominent.
Yeah.
Like, it was just there. It was almost like a drone, so to speak, but again, a very precise drone.
It kind of just gets stuck in one gear. And again, I know Razor likes to play fast, but at least before, I think there was just like a little bit more variety.
Dynamic.
And the intensity is still very much intact. Like, everything I think that are hallmarks of Razor sound are still very much intact here. It's just, I think the production hampers it, and, maybe the way it's paced. Like, there could be some more groove-laden moments to break up songs. And again, like, whatever it is with the drums, whether it's programmed or not, I don't know, like, that needs to change, and beef up those guitars.
Please. You're doing yourself a disservice by not beefing up those guitars.
Overall, this was fun, but at the same time, I mean, there's some glaring issues, and it's not just surface level. Like, you kind of hear them as this continues, and this is a relatively long album for what it is. Like, it's over 43 minutes. That feels long for what you're getting on here, which, again, like, a lot of these songs kind of feel interchangeable. There are some great songs that really stand the fuck out, but a lot of them kind of rinse and repeat, and like, not in a good way, not like a municipal waste, like, yeah, this next song's about pizza and beer, but I don't give a fuck.
Right.
This is kind of that, except, it's missing a little bit of that loose fun. So overall, I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. I think it's okay. Not the comeback that I wanted, but at the same time, at the end of King Shit, they're yelling that they'll be back.
Dude, I love that song so much.
It is a fun song. I think, maybe this one, it may have been done in-house and the production woes just kind of hurt this a bit. But I know they can do better because I've heard them do better in the past. You have the intensity, it just needs maybe a little bit more songwriting flair and a different mix because, man, this mix really just hampers it. It kind of just sucks the energy right out of this. And that seems really difficult when, you consider the band it's trying to take energy from, because despite how old these guys are, they're still fucking ripping on here.
Yes.
I still recommend you check this one out. I mean, longtime Razor fans, you still might really dig this. I don't think this falls, anywhere near like some of their best albums, but it's still enjoyable. It's still goofy fun, and maybe, that's all you really need there. Maybe I'm just being a fucking curmudgeon. I've taken the bitter pill, and
he is old.
I am old.
Yep.
He's old too.
That's true.
We're
not talking about
That's
music.
true.
We're talking about
anyway,
music.
old guy. Why don't you say something about this?
I'm gonna give it a 3. It was all right. My gripes about this are simply with the mix because at least guitar-wise, the musical talent was there. I'm not 100% on the drums. I'm really not. I've listened to thousands of albums, and I know what potential programmed drums sound like, and this could be that. It also just could be a really solid drummer. Don't know. I think vocally is what saves this record overall. I'm telling you, man. King Shit, Punch Your Face In, Bitter Pill, Off My Meds, Jabroni. Look, the song titles alone are worth the 3, and vocally, it's entertaining. I also, though, kind of stand with Nick, it could have been better, and even if this was self-produced, to be honest, it sounds like a demo. It doesn't really sound like an LP release. And to be on Relapse Records, you think he could, just, come on. So, maybe, I don't know, the pandemic, maybe this was recorded during the pandemic, who knows, it could have been done at home. I had fun, but it wasn't anything, that's super standout. I will listen to King Shit again. I'm telling you, fucking listen to that song.
Punch Your Face In.
Yeah, Punch Your Face In too. I will listen to these, but it was all right. And the riffing is there if you can hear it. So, yeah, 3 overall. Not bad.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to our Thralls Metal site, which there's a link to our Patreon there. But while you're at Thralls Metal, you can check out our merch. We have shirts now, and we will eventually have some other stuff in there. Kind of feeling out stuff in there, figuring out what we want to do.
Yeah, I talked to Miller today. We're waiting on something.
Grenades.
Something with the shipping. We're trying not to get fucked in the shipping, I think. So, yeah.
But grenades.
Totally we're talking about it. If anything, I will make Necrotic Nick a Thralls of Metal grenade, because I feel like he's not going to shut the fuck up about it otherwise. Look at him. That's a man that wants a grenade.
And of course, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that stuff. We appreciate the living shit out of you guys.
You especially.
You guys keep us going. Tons of stuff coming out. This month is still loaded, despite it being almost over. Next week is even giant too. So, and I'm actually kind of dreading how big October could be.
And I work 6 days next week, so that'll be fun.
Anyway, I want to thank you one more time because you are fucking awesome. And we will catch you later.